1. Let me tell you about this fascinating 1983 Chevy Suburban K20 Scottsdale that's popped up on Craigslist for $6,500. This is one of those classic square-body Suburbans that's getting harder to find these days, and I've got to be straight with you. This one's got some interesting potential. First off, we're looking at a legit 4x4 with a 350 V8 paired to a TH400 transmission. That's a bulletproof powertrain combo right there. The seller's been honest about the vehicle's condition, and I appreciate that kind of transparency. They've done quite a bit of recent maintenance work, including a new fuel pump, ignition components, and a 600 CFM 4-barrel carb setup. What's really cool is that this is a well-optioned rig with factory tilt, cruise control, power windows, locks, rear AC, and that sweet third row. Now let's keep it real. There are some issues to address. The power windows and locks need some electrical work. The AC's questionable. That pancake compressor comment made me chuckle, and it could use some new tires. The paint situation is interesting. There's apparently a beautiful two-tone copper and gold finish hiding under that thin white paint. With just 23,000 miles showing on the odometer and a clean Texas title, this could be a solid project for someone who wants a classic Suburban to either restore or use as is. Oh, and that working CB radio? That's just the cherry on top for that perfect 80s vibe. While it's not perfect, this Suburban seems to be mechanically sound enough for both around-town cruising or ranch duty. For $6,500, considering the current market for these classic Suburbans and the work already done, it could be a decent deal for the right person willing to tackle those minor issues. 2. Let's talk about this 1983 GMC Sierra C1500 that's up for grabs at $5,500. I've got to be straight with you about what we're looking at here. This is a long bed two-wheel drive pickup that's got some interesting potential. The original 305 has been swapped for a 350 V8, though mileage is unknown, paired with the reliable TH350 transmission. The odometer shows 35,593 miles, but take that with a grain of salt given the engine swap. The seller's been pretty thorough with recent mechanical work, and that's a big plus. We're talking new front brake components, pads, calipers, rotors, fresh suspension parts, springs, shocks, control arms, ball joints, and rear brake overhaul. That's a solid foundation to work with. Now let's be honest about the condition. While it's not a rust bucket, there are some issues to address. You've got dents in the bed and right front fender, some minor floor rust, and door rust at the bottoms. The good news? The seller's including new replacement doors and a tailgate. The cab corners and rockers are solid, which is crucial for these trucks, and the frame is reportedly clean. The interior needs work. That's straight from the seller. The tires aren't great either, and while it could potentially be driven home, trailering would be safer. It's still got all its AC components, though no mention if they're working. For $5,500, you're getting a project truck that's had significant mechanical refreshing but needs cosmetic attention. If you're looking for a classic square-body GMC to restore, this could be a decent starting point, especially with those included replacement parts. 3. Let me tell you about this interesting 1972 Chevy El Camino SS Tribute that's popped up for $14,500. Let's be real about what we're looking at here. First off, it's important to note this is an SS Tribute, not an original SS model. It's running its factory 350 V8, paired with a 350 turbo automatic transmission, and interestingly, the seller's throwing in a 454 big block engine as part of the deal. That's a pretty sweet bonus. The sellers kept it pretty brief, but they mention it's got power steering, power brakes, air conditioning, and comes with factory tack and gauges. They've done some recent work, including new door panels and brake calipers. What really catches my attention is that the seller just completed a 5-hour trip in it. That's a good sign for its mechanical reliability. However, I've got to be straight with you. The description is pretty sparse for a $14,500 asking price. While they claim it's very solid, we don't get much detail about the body condition, interior state, or mileage. That 454 inclusion is intriguing though. For potential buyers, I definitely recommend a thorough in-person inspection and maybe some more questions about its history and condition. El Caminos from this era are getting harder to find, and while $14,500 isn't cheap, having that extra 454 engine adds significant value to the package. Just remember, as an SS Tribute, it's not going to carry the same value as an original SS would. 4. Let me tell you about this absolutely incredible 1955 Dodge Power Wagon that's just popped up for $22,000. This isn't your average classic truck. We're looking at a piece of American history here. What makes this one special is its fascinating background as a former fire station truck that was stored for over 40 years before getting a restoration in 2022. That's the kind of provenance that really adds character to a vehicle. The odometer shows just 2,800 miles, likely since the restoration. Let's talk about what we're working with here. It's powered by the original 230 cc L-head inline-6 engine, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission and a 2-speed transfer case. The seller mentions they've recently cleaned the carburetor, and it's been upgraded to a 12-volt electrical system. That's a practical modern touch while keeping the originality intact. The truck presents beautifully in dark green with black fenders, and they've kept it period correct with that brown vinyl interior. Some really cool features include the wood-lined bed, a classic Power Wagon trademark, front winch, these things were built to work, heater, rear hitch, and locking front hubs. For $22,000, considering the current market for restored Power Wagons and this one's unique fire station history, it's actually quite reasonably priced. These trucks are legendary for their durability and capability, and this example appears to be a well-preserved piece of Americana. The restoration work and recent maintenance suggest it's ready for its next chapter. Just remember, while it's been restored, you're still dealing with a 1955 truck. It'll drive like one, but that's part of its charm. 5. I've got something really special to share with you today. A 1985 Chevrolet El Camino SS that's truly a time capsule, listed at $22,000. And folks, I've got to tell you, this one's the real deal. This is a genuine SS model with the Z15 VIN, not one of those dressed-up clones we often see. What makes this El Camino extraordinary is its one-owner California history before moving to McKinney, Texas in 2003. With just 26,000 original miles, this is about as close as you'll get to a factory-fresh 85 El Camino. The level of preservation here is remarkable. We're talking about an all-original vehicle with the GM window sticker still intact. The seller describes the interior as concours quality. That's show car level, folks. And the exterior is nearly perfect. The engine compartment remains in original condition, which is incredibly rare for these vehicles. What really catches my attention is how this car has been preserved. Garage kept with time in climate-controlled storage. No smoking, no pets, never seen snow, and always parked indoors. That's the kind of care that makes a difference. For $22,000, while it might seem steep for an 85 El Camino, this isn't your average example. We're looking at what might be one of the best preserved original SS models out there. The professional appraisal from 2003 adds credibility to its value, and there's even a video walk-around available to verify its condition. If you're in the market for a museum-quality El Camino SS, this could be the one. Just remember, this isn't a hot rod or a modified muscle car. It's a pristine piece of automotive history that happens to be a practical vehicle too. 6. Let's talk about this eye-catching 1969 Chevy C10 long bed that's up for grabs at $27,000. I've got to tell you, this isn't your grandfather's work truck anymore. First off, this C10 has undergone a frame-off restoration at some point in its life, and while the current seller didn't do the work, they're being upfront about that. The truck's sporting a fresh purple paint job and has been modernized with some cool features. We're looking at a 350 small block V8 that's described as almost new, and it's got a digital dash showing 3,800 miles since the rebuild. One of the standout features is the airbag suspension setup, which gives this classic truck that sweet adjustable stance everyone's after these days. They've also upgraded to front disc brakes. That's a smart safety mod that really improves the driving experience over the original drums. Now, let's keep it real here. At $27,000, you're paying for a show-ready custom C10. The seller mentions new paint, new interior, and that newer engine, plus it's been garage kept. However, The description is pretty brief for a truck in this price range, and you'd want to get a good look at the quality of that frame-off restoration. These 69 C10s are super popular in the classic truck market right now, and while this one's a long bed, which typically commands less than short beds, the modifications and overall condition could justify the price if the work is as good as suggested. Just remember to inspect those airbag components thoroughly. They're great when working properly, but can be expensive to maintain. If you're in the market for a custom C10 that you can drive and show, this purple beauty might be worth checking out. 7. Let me tell you about this interesting 1969 Chevy C20 that's popped up for $15,000. This one's got a cool story as a two-owner family truck, and I've got to be straight with you about what we're looking at here. We're dealing with a C20, that's the 3.4-ton model, powered by a 350 V8, and according to the seller, it's running strong enough for around-town test drives. What's really interesting is that this truck is wearing its original patina paint. That's becoming increasingly rare as more of these trucks get restored. The seller's being refreshingly honest about the truck's condition. They mention it's got good bones for restoration, which tells us it's solid where it counts. With no reported leaks or mechanical problems, that's a good starting point. The odometer shows 2,850 miles, but it's rolled over once, so we're looking at 102,850 miles, still pretty reasonable for a truck of this age. At $15,000, you're getting a complete running classic truck with known history, which is huge, and it's California-based, which typically means less rust concerns. The seller's firm on the price, and I can understand why. Original family-owned C20s from this era are getting harder to find. However, be clear about what you're buying. This isn't a restored show truck. It needs cosmetic cleanup, as the seller states. But that might be part of its charm if you're into the original patina look. Plus, being smog exempt in California is a nice bonus for any future modifications you might plan. For someone looking for an honest original C20 to either preserve with its patina or restore, this could be a solid starting point. 8. Let me tell you about this sweet 1972 Chevy CK10 pickup I found listed for $9,900. You know, these classic CK trucks are becoming increasingly sought after, and for good reason. This particular example comes in a red paint job, which really makes it stand out among the crowd. What's really catching my eye here is that it's being offered by 505 Motorsports in Farmington, NM, with a clean title. Always a good sign. It's rocking an automatic transmission, which makes it more accessible for daily driving compared to the manual variants from that era. The dealer lists it in good condition, and while I always recommend a personal inspection, these CK series trucks were built like tanks back in the day. The 72 model year is particularly interesting because it represents the latter part of the second-generation CK series, which many consider to be among the most beautiful truck designs Chevrolet ever produced. For $9,900, considering the current classic truck market and how prices have been climbing, this could be a solid investment if everything checks out mechanically. Plus, being from a dealership rather than a private seller might offer a bit more peace of mind in terms of the transaction process. Just remember though, we're talking about a 50-year-old truck here, so expect it to need some TLC like any classic vehicle would. But man, these old Chevys have such character. Would love to hear that V8 rumble, if it's got one, and take it for a cruise. 9. Let me tell you about this incredible find, a 1983 Ford F-150 Explorer that's caught my attention on Craigslist for $12,000. This is one of those rare gems, folks. We're looking at an F-150 with just 47,000 miles on the clock, which is incredibly low for a 40-year-old truck. The sellers got me excited because they're claiming it's all original, right down to the factory keys. That's the kind of detail that makes collectors' hearts skip a beat. Under the hood, you're getting that classic 302 V8 engine, that's a 5.0L for you younger folks, paired with an automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive. These powertrains are known for their reliability and torque. They just keep going and going when maintained properly. The truck wears a blue paint job, and what really catches my attention is that it's being sold with a clean title and just past smog. That's huge for a vehicle of this age. The seller even has the original wheels available, which is a fantastic option for anyone looking to keep it period correct. At $12,000, considering today's inflated classic truck market, this could be a solid deal for a well-preserved piece of American automotive history. The fact that the registration is current through October 2025 is just icing on the cake. No immediate paperwork headaches. One thing I really appreciate is how the seller mentions it runs and drives very smoothly. That's crucial for these older trucks. And with those low miles, if everything checks out as described, this could be one of the cleaner examples you'll find from this era. 10. Let me tell you about this interesting 1959 Ford F-100 project I found on Craigslist for $5,000. Let's be completely honest here. This is definitely a project truck, and the seller is upfront about it not running currently. But hold on, because there's some real potential here. We're looking at a short bed F-100, which is typically the more desirable configuration, and it comes with its original 223 straight-six engine that appears to have had some rebuild work done in the past. The truck's got about 100K miles on it and comes with a clean California title, though it's currently on non-op status. It's equipped with a 3-speed manual transmission with that classic column shift, a setup that really takes you back to the good old days. Here's what I really appreciate about this listing. The seller is being straightforward about its condition. They mention it's complete and suggest it doesn't look like it would take much to get up and running. However, remember folks, with any non-running classic vehicle, there could always be surprises waiting once you start digging in. At $4,900, slightly less than the asking price in the title, considering today's market for classic F-100s, this could be a decent starting point for someone looking to get into vintage truck restoration. These 59 F-100s have beautiful styling with those iconic wraparound windshields and classic body lines that just aren't found in modern trucks. Just remember, this is a project, not a driver. You'll need some mechanical knowledge, time, and additional investment to get it roadworthy. But man, when these old F-100s are restored, they're absolute head-turners. 11. Let me tell you about this eye-catching 1972 Chevy C10 stepside that's up for grabs at $26,000. First off, we're looking at what many consider the holy grail of C10s, a short bed stepside. The seller's got a point there. This is definitely one of the most sought-after configurations in the C10 world. The truck's showing 5,794 miles, which is likely after a restoration. Let's talk straight about what we're looking at here. The good stuff first. It's riding on new coil springs for that perfect lowered stance, has fresh front disc brakes, always a great safety upgrade, and sports some sweet custom touches like the grille, bumpers, and steering column. The interior's been redone, and it's powered by what appears to be a Chevy 350 paired with a 350 transmission, the classic combo. Now let's be real about the issues, because honesty is key here. The seller's upfront about the clear coat peeling in sun-exposed areas. That's something you'll want to address. Also, the bedwood needs new varnish, which is a relatively easy fix but should be factored into your plans. The metal flake paint job is from an older restoration, and while the body's described as perfectly straight, you'll want to inspect those clear coat issues to ensure they haven't led to any underlying problems. At $26,000, you're looking at a price point that reflects the current market for well-modified C10s, especially in this desirable body style. It seems the seller had plans for further improvements before the wife had other plans. We've all been there, right? This could be a solid buy for someone wanting an already nice C10 that just needs some cosmetic attention to take it to the next level. Just remember to factor in those clear coat and bedwood issues into your budget. 12. Let me tell you about this absolutely wicked 1968 Ford Ranchero that's up for grabs at $14,000. Let's address the elephant in the room first. Yes, it has a salvage title from a theft back in '96. But don't let that scare you away, because what we're looking at here is a seriously well-built machine. Under the hood, there's a monster 390 FE big block V8 that was rebuilt in 2018, with only about 30K miles since then. And this isn't just any rebuild. We're talking Edelbrock Performer RPM cam, aluminum intake, Holley Pro Series carb, full MSD ignition, and ceramic-coated headers. That's a serious performance setup, folks. The drivetrain is just as impressive. It's rocking a 4-speed top-loader manual transmission with a newer clutch, 2021, connected to a Ford 9-inch rear with Posey traction. And speaking of 2021 upgrades, they didn't mess around with the brakes either. Wilwood 4-piston up front and rebuilt drums in the rear, all with stainless lines. Inside, you're getting modern comfort with Pro-Car bucket seats, a Bluetooth stereo setup with amp, and it's even a factory AC car. While the AC components under the hood are missing, the under-dash components were tested good in 2023. At 145,000 miles, this Ranchero has been around the block, but with all these performance upgrades and recent maintenance, it's clearly been well cared for. The seller's enthusiasm and detailed description of the build really shows through. You can tell this was someone's pride and joy. For $14,000, considering all the performance parts and recent work, this could be a solid deal for someone who doesn't mind the salvage title history. These Rancheros are getting harder to find, especially ones built to this level. 13. Let me tell you about this super clean 1983 Chevy stepside that's caught my eye, listed at $15,000. Now, this is one of those rare finds that makes you do a double take. We're looking at a beautifully preserved stepside with just 62,000 original miles. The seller's description might be brief, but it tells us exactly what we want to hear about a classic truck, adult-owned and well-maintained. Let's talk about what makes this truck special. First off, it's powered by the straight-six engine paired with an automatic transmission, a combination known for reliability and smooth operation. While it might not be the V8 that some folks chase after, these inline sixes are actually fantastic motors that just keep on ticking with proper maintenance. The truck wears a red paint job, and according to the seller, it's just as clean underneath as it is on top. That's huge for these old trucks as they often hide rust issues below. They've also installed a new oak bed, which is always a beautiful touch on a stepside and shows attention to detail. At $15,000, while it might seem steep to some, you're getting a remarkably low-mileage example of an increasingly collectible classic truck. The stepside bed configuration is particularly desirable, and finding one this clean with documented low miles isn't easy these days. Remember, folks, these square-body Chevys are really heating up in the collector market, especially original, well-preserved examples like this one. If everything checks out as described, this could be a solid investment for someone looking for a clean, classic daily driver or weekend cruiser. 14. Let me tell you about this interesting 1975 Chevy C20 project that's up for grabs at $6,000. Let's be completely honest here. This is definitely a project truck that's been sitting for 4 years, and we need to acknowledge that up front. The seller's pretty straightforward about the situation, which I appreciate. There's a little rust, according to the seller, though you'll definitely want to inspect that personally to determine what little means in this case. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The truck comes with a running 350 engine and a rebuilt TH350 transmission. Plus, it's got a clean title. But what really catches my attention is all the included parts for a 5-lug conversion. We're talking loaded control arms, new hubs, rotors, tie rods, pitman arm, idler arm, and even a 12-bolt rear end. That's some serious upgrade potential right there. For those interested in going modern, the seller's even offering an LS2 6.0 with 86K miles and a 4L80E transmission for an additional $2,800, bringing the total to $8,800. That engine came from a 2003 Escalade, and it's complete with some new parts like a water pump. At 155,000 miles on the original truck, you're not looking at a low-mileage cream puff here, but rather a solid foundation for either a restoration or a modernization project. The price point of $6,000 seems reasonable considering all the included upgrade parts, especially in today's market. Just remember, folks, this is a project that needs some love and attention. It's been sitting for 4 years, so expect to do some work to get it back to its former glory. But with all these parts included, you've got a great head start on building something special. 15.9. Let me tell you about this sweet 1985 Dodge D150 that's up for grabs for $10,500. Now this is something special. We're looking at an Arizona truck, which is music to any classic truck lover's ears, because that typically means one thing: rust-free metal. This short bed, two-wheel drive D150 is rocking the original 318 V8 engine. That's Mopar's reliable 5.2L, paired with an automatic transmission. What's really cool here is how original this truck appears to be. With 121,000 miles on the clock, it's been used but not abused, and it comes with all the comfort features you'd want: AC, power steering, and power brakes. The silver paint looks clean in that classic 80s Dodge style. Here's a nice bonus: the seller's including both a set of stock wheels with hubcaps and a lowering kit that hasn't been installed yet. That gives the next owner options: keep it stock and original, or give it that sweet lowered stance that these trucks wear so well. At $10,500, considering today's market for clean, rust-free classic trucks, this could be a solid deal. These D150s are starting to gain more attention in the classic truck world, and finding an Arizona example with good bones is getting harder every year. Remember folks, while these 318s aren't the most powerful engines out there, they're known for their reliability and they're super easy to work on. Plus, there's plenty of aftermarket support if you want to wake it up a bit. 16. Let me tell you about this iconic 1957 Chevy Bel Air that's up for grabs at $30,000. Now, this isn't your typical 57 Bel Air. Instead of the more common V8, we're looking at a straight 6 model with a 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's actually a pretty interesting configuration that you don't see too often. The odometer shows 16,010 miles, but the seller notes it's rolled over, so we're looking at 116,010 plus actual miles here. What makes this particular Bel Air interesting is the blend of original and modern upgrades. They've added some serious safety improvements with power front disc brakes, a huge upgrade from the original drums, and there are modern conveniences like LED turn signals, additional gauges, volt and water, engine temp, and a tachometer. The electrical system's been updated with 2 fuse panels. That's a smart upgrade for reliability. The car's wearing a red paint job and rolls on custom chrome rims, giving it that classic with a twist look. They've also added some comfort features like custom mats, a front center console, and a stereo amp for better sound. Under the hood, there's a new water pump, which is always good to know. At $30,000, you're buying into one of the most recognizable classic cars ever made. While some purists might prefer the V8 models, this straight 6 version offers a unique driving experience and might be more manageable for someone new to classic cars. Remember folks, 57 Bel Airs are absolute icons of American automotive history, and while this one's got some modern touches, it still maintains that classic charm that makes these cars so special. 17. Let me tell you about this absolutely stunning 1978 Ford F-250 that's listed for $29,900. This isn't just any old F-250. We're looking at a time capsule from the Southwest. Being a Southern California and Arizona truck means what we all love to hear: zero rust. And it's packing some serious muscle under the hood with that period-correct 460 Ci V8 engine. That's 7.5 liters of pure Ford power, folks. What makes this truck special is its XLT Ranger trim in medium chestnut metallic, and check this out. It's a 4x4 with Dana 44s front and rear. That's the good stuff right there. With 120,000 miles on the clock, it's been used but not abused, and the interior is described as gorgeous and lightly used. Now, let's be real about what needs attention, because honesty is key here. The seller's upfront about some issues that need addressing. There's work needed on the fuel and temperature sending units, a power steering leak to sort out, and some questions about the dual fuel tank switching system. But hey, they're actively working on these issues while it's for sale. The bed shows some honest wear from use, but importantly, it hasn't been drilled into or cut up. That's becoming rare to find these days. The 3-speed automatic transmission paired with that mighty 460 makes this a capable hauler or potential overland rig. At $29,900, while it might seem steep to some, you're getting a rust-free, well-preserved example of a highly desirable body style. These 78 F-250s, especially in 4x4 configuration with the big 460, are becoming increasingly collectible. Remember folks, while there are some mechanical items to address, finding a rust-free example of these trucks is getting harder every year, especially one this clean. 18. We're diving into a classic beauty that's up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1965 Chevrolet C10 short bed. This vintage truck is a real head-turner, and it could be yours for just $18,000. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. The seller mentions that this C10 is a good driver, which is always a plus. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 V8 engine paired with an automatic TH350 transmission, ensuring a smooth and powerful ride. The truck also boasts power steering and disc brakes, making it easier to handle and stop than some of its classic counterparts. The odometer reads 54,766 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age. However, it's important to keep in mind that the actual mileage may be higher, as odometers can be reset or replaced over time. One of the most appealing aspects of this C10 is its clean title status. The seller also notes that it's a California truck, which could mean it has been spared from the harsh winters and road salt that can cause rust and other damage in other parts of the country. While the seller doesn't go into great detail about the truck's overall condition, they do mention that it's a good driver. This suggests that the C10 is in solid mechanical shape and ready to hit the road. However, as with any classic vehicle, it's always a good idea to inspect it thoroughly before making a purchase. In summary, this 1965 Chevrolet C10 short bed seems like a fantastic opportunity for classic truck enthusiasts. With its clean title, California origins, and desirable features like a 350 V8 engine and power steering, it's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. If you're in the market for a vintage truck with plenty of character, this C10 might just be the one for you. 19. We're taking a closer look at a 1976 Ford F-150 that's currently up for sale on Craigslist. This classic pickup truck can be yours for just $8,900. One of the most impressive aspects of this F-150 is its origin. The seller mentions that it's an original Arizona pickup, which is a huge plus for anyone looking for a rust-free vehicle. As we all know, rust can be a major issue for older trucks, especially those from regions with harsh winters and road salt. The fact that this F-150 hails from Arizona suggests that it has been spared from such conditions. The seller also notes that the engine, transmission, and transfer case have all been rebuilt. This is great news for potential buyers, as it indicates that the truck has received significant mechanical attention and should be in good working order. However, it's always a good idea to request documentation of these rebuilds and have the vehicle inspected by a trusted mechanic before making a purchase. The odometer reads 100,000 miles, which is not uncommon for a truck of this age. While it's not exactly low mileage, it's not necessarily a red flag either. It's important to remember that mileage isn't the only factor to consider when evaluating a classic vehicle's condition. Another positive aspect of this F-150 is its clean title status. This means that the truck has not been involved in any major accidents or sustained significant damage that would result in a salvage or rebuilt title. The seller doesn't provide much detail about the truck's overall condition, such as the state of the interior or any potential cosmetic issues. As with any used vehicle purchase, it's crucial to thoroughly inspect the truck in person and ask the seller detailed questions about its history and condition. 20. We've got a real treat for you. A 1977 GMC Sierra 2500 that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $4,000. This classic pickup is a true workhorse, and it's ready to take on whatever you throw at it. First off, let's talk about the heart of this beast. Under the hood, you'll find a massive 454 big block engine, which is a 7.4L powerhouse designed to handle heavy loads and tough terrain. This particular model is a camper special, with an impressive 8,200 GVW, gross vehicle weight, making it perfect for hauling, delivery, work, camping, and more. The seller mentions that this Sierra 2500 is in good condition for its age, which is always a plus when dealing with classic vehicles. They also note that it runs and drives well, so you can feel confident taking it out on the road right away. One of the coolest features of this truck is its dual fuel tank setup. With 2 tanks at your disposal, you'll be able to cover more ground without having to stop for gas as often. This is especially handy if you plan on using the truck for long-distance hauling or camping trips. The odometer shows 65,174 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle that's over 4 decades old. However, as with any classic truck, it's essential to have it inspected by a trusted mechanic to ensure there are no hidden issues. Aesthetically, the truck sports a green paint job, which adds to its classic charm. The seller doesn't provide much detail about the interior or any potential cosmetic flaws, so be sure to ask for more information and photos if you're interested in making a purchase.